you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. It is still this morning. We're very excited here today to be able to celebrate with you all Destination Ann Arbor being a verified Wheel of the World destination, the first in Michigan. Yeah, thank you. Very excited about that. And one of our first steps in being a verified accessible destination. We have more work to do, but we're excited for this very important first step. So many people were involved in starting this process, and we have a lot of people to thank before we get started with all this great presentation. So I'd like to get started with thanking some of those folks. First of all, the Hands-On Museum. How many people have been here with their children or as adults, because I still enjoy many of the exhibits you see here today. Susan and her staff have been amazing, so thank you so much. We have some elected officials joining us today. Thank you. If you could raise your hand or stand, please, and be recognized. Thank you. We very much appreciate your support, so places like this can be gems in our community. Thank you. Thank you to our media partners for being here today to acknowledge this momentous occasion. Also to our staff. Thank you so much for preparing this. Chad Wiebesick can you wave, Chad? Chad has done a great job pulling this together. This has been several months in the making, so thank you so much for all of your hard work. Our board is also here, and committee members of many task force that we work with at Destination Ann Arbor. Could you please stand and be recognized? Or wave. You're here. Mark, I see you. There's a few of you guys. Don't be shy. Jenner, you can wave. You guys do endless amounts of energy into these planning and strategic operations of our organization. We appreciate you. Now to the more important folk, well, not more important, but the folks that really helped this come together. Being a verified destination takes a lot of effort, a lot of planning and preparation, and we appreciate you greatly with this partnership. Among them, Disability Network of Washtenaw, Livingston, Monroe, the mappers that went out into the community and to our establishments such as the Hands-On Museum and took the time to make sure that they had the correct measurements, the information that makes folks with different abilities able to have worry-free experiences is very, very important. So thank you so much for that time and effort. We really appreciate you. Zach Damon, the chairman of the the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues. He unfortunately couldn't join us today, but is also a huge part of that collaboration. Very much appreciate you. Thank you so much. As well as our next speaker, the Wheel of the World, Arturo. I think he just goes up without saying. He is known almost everywhere he goes as the founding chairperson of Wheel of the World and everything that you've done in this very important work. We greatly appreciate everything that you have done in this space. It's been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much for everything that you've brought to this destination. We really, really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please, take it away.
Well, hi. My name is Arturo Gaona. I'm the Chief Partnerships Officer at Wheel of the World. Originally from Mexico City, but living in San Francisco for now 2 years. And I want to tell you a little bit about what made us start this company. Back in 2016, we decided to do this insane trip in Patagonia, the very south of the world, to hike with one of our best friends, who is a wheelchair user. As you can see, it's like an insane trip, right? But it was one of those life-changing situations. We filmed a very homemade documentary. Those are just a few images of that. And from there, we knew that there was something into making travel more accessible. So that's why we are the only platform in the world which is bringing detailed and verified accessibility information so that our community can actually travel and explore the world without limits. Everything that we do at the company has at its center the user experience of folks with disabilities. And since 2018, we are running a booking website where you can book hotels, things to do for the day, multi-day packages, group tours in over 200 destinations around the world with verified accessibility. And I want you to understand the problem that we're trying to fix here. So imagine that you're going into your next trip. Maybe you already have a coming trip. It can be abroad or local. So think about your trip. You take a flight, you arrive at your destination, you're kind of tired, you check into the hotel, and you see that something's weird. The floor is kind of sticky, the bed is super high, and then the bathroom door is locked. Like, what's up? I just arrived, I'm tired. And this is what our users are facing on a daily basis here in the US. Beds are too high, bathrooms sometimes are not very accessible. And in many cases, you check in and that accessible room is gone. So that's gonna ruin your trip, right? So we want to fix this. And the most important thing that we're trying to, and that's why this partnership is so important, is that we are trying to bring accessibility information online, because what today you can find online is not very reliable, and you can actually not find a lot of things. So we're trying to fix that part. Then we also are trying to change the perception that accessibility is a binary situation. What might fit Emma's needs maybe will not fit Alex's needs. So at the end of the day, it's about the user, not about the regulation. So we need to above and beyond that to really provide a customized experience. And because of this, the big players in the market don't really guarantee the accessibility that an individual requires. So it happens that this is actually a huge opportunity for the travel industry. The disposable income of this community is crazy. And why? Because 15% of the world's population has some sort of disability. If we add families and friends into that component, we're talking about that almost 1/3 of us have a connection with that. And because of that, the disposable income of this community is huge. It's like $13 trillion. When it comes to traveling, they're already spending 120 billion globally, but it should be 300. So there's like a huge opportunity for the travel industry, for destinations to unlock this segment of the population. In the US, 1 in 4 adults identify with some degree of disability. If we also add the fact that every day this number of boomers are coming and 1/3 of them cannot really walk long distances, services need to be prepared and ready for this change in the demographics. And that's why we created Destination Verified with the intention to accelerate the transition towards more accessible destinations so that they can enjoy them. This is what we're trying to fix with this program. The first one is the lack of accessibility information. So how do we make sure that future visitors can understand the accessibility of the different hotels, restaurants, attractions like this museum, for example? How can we provide them with like an amazing booking experience, stress-free? How can we also help destinations to provide training to hospitality professionals? Maybe in 10 years, it's gonna be different, but right now, as a hospitality professional, you don't really get this type of trainings. So we need to change that. And all of these changes will take time because this is like a cultural change that we need to push in the travel industry. But we need to start today. So I'm super glad that Ann Arbor decided to take some steps into becoming more accessible, just like a lot of different destinations across the US, 83 or around that number are part of the program. So what are we doing here? The first thing that we do with destinations is to onboard their partners. So some of you are partners and received one of our mappers or someone from the Disability Network to get all of this accessibility information and data. Then we're going to be providing you with an accessibility insights report, which is giving you tips and tricks on where to improve, for example. We will train you through the Will the World Academy. And then for some destinations, it is important also to make some noise about this. So we also help destinations to get promoted to our community. These are some examples of the impact that we are bringing. Real businesses in different destinations that are like making little changes, just trying to become a little bit more accessible. It doesn't need to be super complicated. We try to keep it simple and easy for everybody. And now we are ready to play a super cool video. Play.
I love traveling because you get to experience different cultures, meet different people, and it helps you realize that you're very small and that this world is really big. So Ann Arbor is very quaint, a very cute little town. If you're looking to explore different restaurants and downtown shops, this is the place to go. My favorite place we visited has been the Waterloo Recreation Area. I have not been hiking since before my accident. That's something I used to love to do with my family, and I never really thought it would be possible. So getting to experience that, getting to ride the track chair was a little scary at first, but after getting used to it, it was really fun, and it was really cool getting to be in nature and just experience all that Ann Arbor and Waterloo has to offer. Wheel the World does a great job of making things as easy as it can be. And when you travel with them, you kind of get to step away from the challenges that you face on a daily basis because all of the accessibility is planned out for you. I think it's important to make everyone feel welcome, no matter their race, their gender identity, and physical disability. And I think Ann Arbor does a great job of instilling that and making everyone feel welcome. I think everyone should have the opportunity to travel and to see the world, and it may be a little more difficult for people with disabilities, but it's definitely possible. And so I think that even though it may take a couple extra steps of planning, everyone should try to get out and do it.
Thank you, Arturo. I'm Mike Price. I'm the Executive Vice President here at Destination Ann Arbor. That was the first time Emma has actually seen that video too, right, Emma? Yeah. So we love the video. Thank you all for being here with us today. We really want to highlight, for us, accessibility. This is a journey, and we're really just kind of diving into this a little bit right now. There's so much work to be done, and there will be work to be done. No matter how far and how much focus we have on this initiative, there'll always be effort and energy that needs to be put forth to make sure that we're as an accessible inclusion destination as possible. On that end of things, we want to take a 2-minute quick break and transition. We actually want to bring a panel up and have a short panel discussion and learn about how we take those next steps into our accessibility journey, how we can continue to move our destination forward from a visitor standpoint, and share some experiences from some of our speakers on the panel for accessibility. So if you'd like to grab a quick drink around the corner here for 2 quick minutes, we're going to transition the panel, and then we'll kick right off with our discussion. Thank you. All right, welcome back. Thank you for letting us get the panel set up real briefly here. As we mentioned, this is a first big step for us on the accessibility journey with Wheel the World, and we're very excited to be the first Michigan destination that is verified status with Wheel the World. That's a point of pride for us and something we're all very excited about. Our team in the office, and especially led by Chad on this initiative, has done a wonderful job pulling these details together. And we thank all the partners in the room that have already signed up to be a verified destination, just like the Hands-On Museum is here with Susan. And if you want more information afterwards too, our panelists are going to answer a few questions here, but we'll all stick around for a little while afterwards if you'd like to grab anybody, have some additional conversation, and figure out a little bit more about, or learn a little bit more about the program or the initiative. Any of our panelists would be happy to answer any questions that you have. So just jumping in here a little bit, Arturo, I'll start with you. Actually, let's go around and just do down the line, if we can, some quick introductions, name, organization, and we'll work our way down, if you don't mind.
Well, I already introduced myself, so Emma.
My name's Emma Bailey, and I do a lot of travel, social media, content creation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Westhoff. I'm the CEO here at the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum and Leslie Science and Nature Center.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Alex Gossage. I'm the Executive Director for Disability Network, Washington, Monroe, Livingston.
And hello, everyone. I am Sarah Miller, President and CEO of Destination Ann Arbor.
Great, thank you. Arturo, starting with you, we mentioned this is a journey, and for us, it's a great first step on that journey here, being verified status with with Wheel the World. Your platform, you talked a little bit about the history of it and the start of it, but how is your platform a little bit different than maybe some of the other services that are out there, and how do they support one another when you bring them all together?
I think there are like two things that make our program a little bit different than other options in the market. The first one is that we are integrating all of this data and information into an experience. Basically, we're transforming that into something that you can book online, which is great for our community. And then the second thing is that, as you mentioned, like accessibility is not a summit, it's a journey. And it's gonna take us some time to get better, to fix it, to enhance things. So we really see this program as a partnership, not as a checklist of things that like you're done and that's it. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to bring the different key players of a destination together to enhance the accessibility across the board for future visitors. But this is going to also have a local impact, right? Because if accessibility gets enhanced here because of this program, then local folks can also enjoy new accessibility features or access to this level of information which didn't exist before. And another thing that I think makes us different is that we're not judging accessibility, because we don't see accessibility as a binary situation, like as I was mentioning before. It really depends on the user, right? So we're trying to empower the user to take an informed decision on whether or not wherever it's available out there fits their needs. So that's our approach. And you know, like becoming accessible, it is like inevitable. It's part of something that we need to do. Not only because of the numbers that I was sharing, but also like just think about yourself. In the future, each one of us will require some level of accessibility at some point in our lives. And our generations love traveling and getting around and discovering things. And we want to keep doing that. Like, we just need to enhance the experience. So, yeah, and at the end, it's about also bringing destinations together. I believe that when you become more accessible and this milestone of being destination verified also brings the local community of partners together, and it fosters like pride and a sense of belonging to something that's actually good for the travel industry, but also for the local folks.
I'm supposed to say follow-up questions once we get through the panel. Sorry, Chad, I'm going to break the rules to start right now, because follow-up question for you, Arturo, on that. One thing we noticed on this journey is accessibility from a facility standpoint can be a bit of a scary word sometimes, I think, when we talk about going into a location, walking through it, and making an assessment on accessibility within that facility. And I know Susan will touch on this a little bit later as well, but walk us through that process a little bit, because it's not a walk in and scolded and you're legally not meeting these obligations. That's not what this is. This is just more accessibility information to have an informed decision-making process as you learn and want to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, each country has its own regulation. Here we have most likely the best baseline in the world, which is the ADA, which it's great because it creates that baseline, right? If you're an operating business, you're somehow compliant to that regulation. But at the end, you need to provide more information to to our community, because this will like really unlock the experience for everybody. And I believe that it's also like the right thing to do. Just to provide what you have. I'm gonna give like a very simplistic example. So all of us are buying online today, right? So imagine that you want to buy another black jacket. So you go online and you end up in this bad website, 0 pictures, 0 description, and it says buy now. Will you buy it?
No.
No. You need information. You need the colors, materials, sizes, measurements, shipping methods, and then you can decide if it's going to be okay for you or not. And it's better to inform future visitors about what you have and let them choose, and yeah, just move from there.
Great, thank you. Moving to Emma, we are fortunate to spend some time together and then have you in the destination. We're so excited about it, and the video turned out incredible. So thank you for everything you've done for us to this point in time. On your recent visit, share with us kind of your impressions of Ann Arbor and the region as a whole from an accessibility standpoint, and kind of what this commitment means for a destination when they go through this process.
Yeah, so first I just want to thank Wheel the World and Destination Ann Arbor for having me. It was such an amazing time. I loved exploring the city. But yeah, usually when I travel or go on a trip, there's a lot of extra planning that goes on, and that can be really stressful for someone like me in a wheelchair, and just the unknown of knowing, like, is this going to actually be accessible? But choosing somewhere like Ann Arbor that is verified accessible by a reputable travel company like Wheel the World, it means a lot, and it kind of takes some extra stress off your shoulders in the planning process.
And how was your visit to Ann Arbor? What did you think when you were getting around?
I loved it. Even like the downtown areas, it's a lot older and there's historical buildings, but they did a great job of making their storefronts accessible and having alternate entrances if there were steps in the front and things like that.
Great, thank you. Alex, your team has been a critical partner through this entire process, and we couldn't have pulled it together without you and the volunteers and the team that you all brought to the table with us. Accessibility, these assessments took a lot of work. What are some of the common accessibility challenges that individuals face in our community, and how is your organization trying to address some of those challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my colleagues, Elliot, who I know is here today, I'm not sure if Karen is as well. They were the ones that were responsible for doing a lot of the audits around our city and our county, really. I think as a person with a disability, somebody who's had a disability their whole life, I've seen a lot of the same problems over the years. It is having steps to go into the front entrance of a building and no way to get into it otherwise. It's having bathrooms that are inaccessible entirely. A lot of times it's very small things that are easy to fix, but sometimes it is something that's more complex, like a multi-level ramp. But a lot of times it's just those small things. And I think as importantly, when we start to look at physical spaces, you can also start to talk with the staff who are working in those businesses, and they can start to learn about how they can interact in ways to improve the experience of people with disabilities in their particular business. So there are a lot of different things that happen. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're big. As I mentioned with bathrooms, I can remember years ago I used to plan all of our trips with my wife around where the nearest Starbucks was, because I can guarantee almost 95% of the time Starbucks is going to have a unisex restroom that we could both fit in, and I can transfer her as needed. And I couldn't do that with most other places. So that's why having something like this, I can feel as comfortable looking at that, finding out what's there, and then taking that trip and moving forward and not have to worry about advocating for myself. But these things they're all around the country. It's sometimes it's lighting, sometimes it's carpet, sometimes it's just thinking about things a little bit differently. They don't have to be big changes to a business to make them more accessible.
Great. Susan, thank you for hosting us today. Really appreciate you having us in today. You were one of the first businesses to actually go through the assessment and become a verified facility through Wheel the World. What does it mean for the museum? What does it mean for your guests and the community to go through that process?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for being here. I'm thrilled to have you here launching this initiative. Wheel the World is an incredible website. I hope you have checked it out, or if you haven't, that you go on today. And thanks to Destination Ann Arbor for prioritizing this. The museum has an initiative called Access for All, and we really look at access from a multi-layered perspective, right? There's people who are neurodivergent coming into our space, people with visual impairment, hearing impairment, physical differences and disabilities that we want to be ready for and have them feel welcome and invited into our space. So that's a priority we've placed as an organization. So being a part of this was actually very exciting for us because it was bringing an expertise we don't have. We've worked together before with Alex and his team, and they're incredible, if you don't know that already, to help us understand as we're building exhibits, how can we make sure that people of different heights and different abilities can interact, that they feel safe and welcomed and invited into the space, they can access what they need to be able to engage with the exhibit or with the space. I mean, all that's really important. But I have to say, and we said this on the phone, it's vulnerable as a business, right? To say, what is it that we're not doing? And not to look at it, as Arturo said, as a deficit or a judgment, but what are the opportunities here, right? There are some we know, and I have one I can point out to you. There's a bubble capsule behind you that is integral to us. We've had it since we've been a museum, almost 50 years now, and a wheelchair user can't use it. And we know that. And there are museums around the country that have had a similar situation, and they've created one that is wheelchair accessible. It's a very straightforward thing to do. Now we have to figure out how to fund it and make it happen, right? So being able to have opportunities around our space where we can say, oh, look, this is something where there's an easy solution. Now we know it costs something, we have to figure out how to make it happen. And that's really the rub for a business, is identifying the opportunities and saying, how do we make sure in our priorities we figure out how to fund this now?
Sarah, for Destination Ann Arbor, can you share why accessibility is such a priority for us in our community, and what achieving this status means for Destination Ann Arbor and the region as a whole?
Absolutely, and many of the panelists here touched on that, but creating that welcoming environment, I think, is the core of what Washtenaw County and Ann Arbor is. We're a destination, we welcome everyone. We want you to feel welcome here. We want you to be yourself here. And that means you have to be comfortable here. So that's just part of this. And I think coming off of Travelability, which was a conference I attended last week, which talks much about this, and I saw Arturo there in fact last week, it's eye-opening to go to a conference like that, where you hear about the stories of what people are enduring, and understanding that when you say that something's accessible, what does that mean? I think, take that for granted sometimes when you say that, and not understanding that heights matter to different people for different things, and that carpet height matters, and the type of flooring you have can matter. So having Wheel the World as that verified partner of ours and having that information for people, as Emma mentioned, takes that planning worry out of your experience in the destination. So now I can come to the Destination Ann Arbor, Wheel the World, and I can look at that website when I'm planning my experience here and go, oh, I know I can go to all of these hotels, these destinations, these attractions. I know exactly what I can expect. I know exactly how I'm going to feel there, and I know I'm going to have a great time. And I think that's what's really great about this partnership and why it means so much to our team and to our organization, because that's what we want. We want you to feel great when you're here, and that's a big part of this.
Great. Alex and Emma, this is more directed toward the both of you, but travel anxiety. I have a daughter that's wheelchair bound since birth, and travel anxiety is a real thing when you're trying to figure out where to go, what to do, how to access a space. This is a good starting point, but this tool is not only used for the visitor, which is incredible benefit for the visitor, but it's a local asset as well. I think our residents can utilize this space. The more businesses and the more partners we have on the platform, the more our community will understand what those accessibility options are at any facility. As you look at traveling, what are some of the first things that you consider when you look at a destination? If you're going outside of your home, out of state, or just even locally traveling, what are you most concerned about to start with?
Oh, did you say me or Alex?
Either one.
Well, for me, the hotel is kind of one of the most important things. I always look for, in the bathroom, is there a roll-in shower instead of walk-in shower? Am I going to be able to get under the sink? And am I going to be able to transfer onto the bed easily? And, sometimes the beds are super high or super low. So that's definitely one of the first things I look at. And I highly encourage you to look at Wheel the World's website, because they go above and beyond with the amount of accessibility features they include on the website, like the type of door handle, the type of switches on the lamps and the lights, like things you wouldn't think about unless you are disabled. And it makes the planning process a lot easier.
Alex, anything you'd add?
I think as far as traveling for myself, to be honest, I haven't flown in probably 4 years. And part of that was COVID related, but part of that is just worries about wheelchairs getting broken on the airplanes. It's worries about, I can transfer myself, but my wife can't. So it's worries about her getting dropped. And I know plenty of people where they've had wheelchairs damaged beyond usability once they've gotten somewhere. And so there's real flight anxiety there. And I know there's a lot of work that's going on right now so that folks with disabilities eventually can just board an airplane and be in their chair on the plane. And then once I'm there, I do think about things like, well, do I need to rent a vehicle? Do I need to how far away are accessible vans in terms of being able to rent them? What are the various prices for all of those things? Because there's honestly usually what we call a disability tax. These things cost more. How's parking going to be? What's the weather going to be like? So there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, there's a lot goes into just getting here this morning, much less planning a trip for a week.
Arturo, you Wheel the World is not it's an international organization. You have destinations across the globe that have been through this. You travel, you see these destinations. You've been plugged into the accessibility side of our industry for a long time. What are some of the new upcoming, or what are some of the destinations that are really driving accessibility as a focal point? What are some of them doing to really highlight accessibility and create more travelers, but also a more inclusive community?
Fortunately, I can think of different examples. Out of my head, I'm thinking of Dutchess Tourism in upstate New York. After going through the program, they actually did something pretty cool, which was creating a small grant for small businesses to actually implement those recommendations that we provided, which is a way to really unlock that part. That's one example. Another example, for example, is Oregon. We have mapped 50% of the destinations over there, and we're about to map the whole state. So that's pretty amazing. It's going to be a lot of work, but at the end of the day, we're going to be having like a state verified project. So that's pretty cool. And we have been doing this program mainly here in the US. Hopefully we can take it outside of the US. I think the only country we have done it outside is some destinations in Chile and Costa Rica. Then the rest is us creating our own itineraries and trips to put them online with all the verification that's needed. But at the end, we are just a small company. We require of a lot of partnerships and support to make this happen. In order to make the travel industry more accessible, a lot of hands need to be involved. So it's great to be collaborating with destinations. So thank you, Sarah, so much for trusting in our company. Chad also, thank you for all like the hard work and the good vibes. And we actually feel very welcome across the US. Wheel the World is a 90% Latino startup. So a lot of Chileans, a lot of Argentinians, Mexicans. And it's also super nice to be able to engage with local communities across the US and helping them to drive change.
Is there one destination that you would point to and kind of say, hey, as an example, this is one you'd want to look at and say they're doing things really well, or they've really elevated this from a visibility standpoint? Does anybody stand out, or is there so much work to be done that nobody comes immediately to mind.
There's a lot of work to be done, for sure. You're putting me here on the spot.
I know, I'm sorry.
You're looking for a name. I think a good example, I mean, we launched this program is super young. Like, it has 2 years. It's 2 years old. So 2 years ago, we didn't have any collaboration through this program with destinations. And now we have 80-something destinations. So the traction is there. And I think one of our very early adopters was Fort Lauderdale in Florida. They've been doing a lot of work around including everyone from like a social inclusion point of view. They've been running these programs for like over 15 years or more. They were very focused on including the LGBTQ community, because it happens that the greater Fort Lauderdale area has the largest household of same-sex couples. So at some point we met, and they have this marketing brand, which is everyone under the sun. And then the question was like, everyone? Like, what do you have for accessibility? So from there, we started this concept of accessibility under the sun, which is part of that larger marketing campaign. And yeah, we have been assessing a lot of businesses there. We have done 2 marketing campaigns. A 3rd one is coming. And they see this as a journey. They get it, right? So yeah, I think that's a good example.
All right. Thanks, Arturo. I appreciate it. Alex and Sarah, for both of you, because you're so community focused with this initiative, if you're sitting here 5 to 7 years from now, and you're looking back at the start, for us, the start of a journey, but Alex, you and your team have been working so hard on this for a while. What does our community look like in 5 to 7 years in an ideal world? What's different? What tools are in play? And what things have been accomplished to make our community a more accessible destination?
Oh boy.
These weren't prepared questions, so yeah.
I think about a culture of accessibility. What would that look like? And for me, that looks like people with disabilities, with and without disabilities, various kinds of disabilities, able to be in and of the community, being able to participate, recreate, work. So that means the city being walkable. That means there being sound public transportation. That means there being parking. That means businesses, not only are the physical infrastructure is there, that means we haven't mucked up the insides by putting too much stuff in there and making things inaccessible again. And it makes, and I think it's about people being aware of how they can assist somebody with a disability, or maybe how they need to not do something that they think they should be doing. So to me, that's a lot of what that looks like. And I think, this is a good start. We have a lot of work to do, but I'm glad that we're a part of this right now, and I'm looking forward to moving forward and seeing where we go.
I agree. I mean, I think big. So I guess I'd love to see this just become something that everyone raises their hand to do. It becomes something that we just ingrain in our. This is what it just becomes second nature. We don't even think about it, because it's a part of, we know we have to do it. So it's information that we provide everywhere. It's easily found everywhere we look. So it's a part of our websites. It's a part of our information. It's part of everything we do everywhere we go, so that everyone can find that information. And I see it almost expanding into further than that, being in a hands-on museum. And I know Susan and your team do this well, but even expanding that, because we see things going into the cognitive side of ability as well, especially with autism and the spectrum that is. And expanding it into that journey as well. There are a lot of children, my own included, that happen to be on that spectrum, and being able to see some of those sensory abilities and things of those natures that can hinder an experience in travel. There's a lot of work to be done in this world. So just starting this journey is great. It's a big journey, and it'll take years, but it's exciting to see it go that way. Looking forward to that. It'll be more than 5 years, but we're excited about it.
Can I make one more point? I'd also like to see a community where, when we think about accessibility, it's not how it relates to the ADA. The ADA is a baseline. If we're meeting ADA, we're not breaking the law. Great. The ADA is also over 30 years old. There's a lot we've come a lot of way we've come since then, and we need to be looking beyond that when we're thinking about accessibility in our businesses, and also we need to be able to have these conversations and not worry so much that an organization like mine is going to come along and try to sue you because of the ADA. I recognize that's a real fear and a real concern. I get that. But an organization like ours is coming at it from the perspective of, we just want your place to be accessible and inclusive. And if we can help with that, if we can start a dialogue, that's what we'll do. And so that's what I would like to see in 7 or 8 years.
I would like to add something there about that fear, because in some destinations that comes to us, and we have assessed around 4,000 or something like that, businesses, places, venues, hotels, just as part of the program, and we have 0% of something related to what Alex was talking about, right? So I think you can protect your business even more if you're transparent about what you have, because if you don't do that, and then someone comes and finds out it's just going to be a bad experience, and that's kind of like what sometimes pisses people off, and then from there some other things are triggered. So yeah, I think just being transparent is a smart approach, and also a humble approach, because being perfect is pretty difficult from a regulation point of view. And the spectrum of disabilities is very wide, but just acknowledge what you have and work from there and take some baby steps. Like in the company, we like to say that perfection is the enemy of good, right? We're a startup, so we're like iterating all the time, trying to fix things to make them better. We have done a lot of mistakes, of course, but that's part of the journey. And yeah, I just wanted to add that.
So did you have something to add, Sue?
I was just going to add that if you are a Washtenaw County business, I guess Washtenaw, Livingston, Monroe, Disability Network is a massive resource for us. And we've worked with them a couple of times now with Alex's team, and they're such a gift to walk into your space and give you honest perspective, varied perspective on accessibility opportunities in your space. So I would just really, really encourage you. I have never found it to be negative. It's always been a positive experience where it's additive to what we're talking about. We're talking about an exhibit or a gallery or a nature playscape at the Nature Center, and the folks coming in are saying, well, have you thought about this? Well, did you realize that someone who can't see maybe is not going to interact with this well? And it's an opportunity asking inquisitive questions and giving us a chance to do it better.
That's great. We have just 2 last questions, and then we'll wrap up. Kind of leaning into that a little bit, Susan, I'm going to pull the curtain back on our process a little bit. As we got going on this initiative, Chad, our team, we reached out to well over 100 businesses, probably maybe upwards of 200 businesses. Chad, is that a fair number? Yeah, probably upwards close to 200 businesses. We're about mid-40s right now with verified facilities right now on the platform, which when you look at our peer set around the country that's gone through this initiative is really strong. That's good. But I think the word disappointed isn't the right word, but it was kind of like an eye-opening moment for us when we went through this process. We went, why doesn't everybody just want to do this? Like, why wouldn't they want to be a part of this? And then when you start thinking about it through the facility side, there are some steps that you kind of go, okay, well, I don't know if I want to jump into this quite yet or not. Susan is somebody that you jumped really quick into this for us, which we appreciate. What are some of those things that a group or an organization should be aware of as they begin this journey? And is there any anxiety that was removed from the process as you went through it with Arturo and Alex's team?
Well, I touched on it a little bit, that I already knew Disability Network and that they're a very welcoming, supportive group, which has helped us a lot. It does take staff time, right? So you have to have a person or a group of people who can walk through with the visitors and understand, take notes, and be really transparent about what is or isn't working. I think that's just something to be aware of. And I don't know. There's nothing else really to note. I think that it is a positive experience, and at the end of the day, it just allows us to be a better organization serving the community.
Emma, I'm gonna wrap up with you. 2 questions. One, when you're done, tell everybody where they can find you and follow you on your journey, because I know that you're working to grow and get out and be very visible. Love to have some folks tune in and follow your journey along the way. But share with us what inspired you to begin traveling, to get out again, to really start exploring, and then come through the Wheel the World initiative as well. How did that all come together for you, and why is it important for you?
Yeah, so I've always loved traveling and experiencing new cultures and places. My first kind of big international trip was in college. I went to London, and I was there for a month, and I was, a wheelchair user, and I didn't really know what accessibility would be like. And after doing some research, that's actually how I first came across Wheel the World. And they had some resources about accessible things to do in London. And so that kind of helped. And it, being a wheelchair user, you have to be aware of a lot of different things that the average person doesn't have to think about when traveling. And I know some people with disabilities may just not choose to travel at all because it is kind of difficult. And so that's kind of what inspired me to start my blog. Start my blog and to document my travels on social media. If you want to follow me, my Instagram handle is Emma_C_Bailey. You are? Oh, perfect. Thank you.
It's great, Emma. Thank you. Arturo, yeah.
I just want to add something about the work that Emma is doing. You're helping to fix something that's also broken in like mainstream media and social media. Only 2.2% of like mainstream media has any content related to your community. And we need to fix that, right? We need to fix that representation. And that's why we also created the nice video that you watched. It's not only a nice video. This is only the tip of the iceberg of a marketing campaign that we're going to be deploying through our platform to our community with like a dedicated marketing team to push the brand of Ann Arbor out there and reach, I don't know, hopefully like 1 million or 2 million folks, to let them know that there are great things to do here and that they should come. So I just wanted to add that. It's not only a video, it's about also pushing your community to this segment of the market.
Can I add one? Sorry. Can I add one thing to that? I think that was one of my major takeaways from the conference last week, and listening to folks with their experiences traveling with disabilities. This isn't just information for them and their experiences. It's also a group when they do come and they have good experiences through service, which I'll also add that Wheel the World offers an academy as part of their training, which teaches you how to engage with the disability community when they're here, so that you are offering the best of the service that you can provide when they come to your organization, to your establishments. It's also the most loyal community. So when they come and they have a great experience, they tell everybody, they tell their friends, and then they keep coming back. So that's a really important point. I heard that over and over again at the conference last week.
Great. Thank you. Arturo, Emma, Susan, Alex, Sarah, thank you all for being here today and for being on the panel, and for your commitment to growing access for travelers and visitors. Please give our panelists a round of applause.